everybody, I'm Ed from Peco's Liquors, and today we're going to do a quick video on how to taste wine like a pro. We wanted to do this video kind of early on in the series of web videos just because it's something we're going to do a lot together. So I think it'll be helpful to kind of get an idea of what I'm doing up here and what you can do at home if you follow along. So quick video, how to taste wine. Need a couple things: bottle of wine, glass for your wine, and this is optional, but I think it's helpful, a white background to look at the color on. When you pick your wine, pick one you're familiar with, or maybe your favorite wine. I think that'll help going forward with something that you know as we go through these steps for the first time. So go ahead and pour yourself about 1.5 ounces. That's pretty good for a taste. First thing you want to do is just look at it. You can learn a lot about wine just by taking a look. So first thing you want to do, is it clear or is it hazy? This one's definitely clear. I don't see any fog or anything like that in there. It's pretty clear. You can see through it. Indication that it's probably good. Next, you look at the color. Red wine, if you're talking red wine, can run from pretty much purple all the way down to garnet. This one's kind of in the middle. It's ruby. Then you want to look at the intensity of the color. And the way you do that, the easiest way I know how to do it, put the wine down on the flat surface like a white piece of paper or whatever. Look from the top to the bottom, and you're kind of checking to see if you can see where the stem of the glass, which is right here, meets the bowl. And this one you can see it. So I'd say it's not 100% clear, so I call that medium intensity. So it's a ruby, clear, medium intensity wine. First step done. Next thing you do is smelling it. And a lot of people think this is really, really hard. And they say, oh, all I smell is red wine. Well, that might be all you smell, and that's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to pick out all the different flavors or aromas in this wine, it takes a lot of practice. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You're not going to stick your nose in here and say, oh, I'm an expert. I smell all this. It's something that takes a lot of work. And it is worth doing. I think it really helps you appreciate wine more if you do kind of take the time to train your palate and smell all those different smells and aromas. I remember the first time I ever smelled something in a wine. I smelled it and I said, oh my God, it smells like blueberry. I looked at the label and sure enough it said right in big bold letters, vibrant notes of blueberry. So it is rewarding when you do train yourself well enough that you start to pick something out. I am by no means an expert. It is very difficult to do, but it takes a lot of work. But I think it's worth it. It's very rewarding. So next thing, taste, which is the fun part. When you taste wine, you want to make sure you are getting it all over your mouth. Cover every inch of your mouth because there's different tastes that comes from different areas all over your palate. So up front, the first thing you want to do and the first thing you'll notice about a wine is whether it's sweet or dry. This one's red, so generally dry, and this one is dry. Next thing you want to do, think about the acidity. Acidity can be hard to detect. It's hard for me. You detect that on the sides of your tongue. If you get a prickly, tickly sensation on the sides of your tongue, it's probably acidic. Also, if your mouth starts to water, that's a really good indication of acidity. This one I'd call medium acidity. I don't think it has too much. Mouth waters a little bit. Then, if you're dealing with red wine, tannin. Is there a lot of tannin? And the tannin you detect in your gums and on the sides of your mouth. It feels like a drying sensation. Then you look at the body. Is it full-bodied, light-bodied? Think about the difference between whole milk and skim milk. That's a good way to kind of go by that. After that, you think about all those aromas you smelled. Do you taste them? And if so, are they different? If you smelled raspberry, do you taste raspberry or do you taste dried raspberry? Something like that. Then you look at the finish. Is it a long finish? Do the flavors that you taste stay with you for a while or do they kind of dissipate pretty quickly? After that, you can kind of start to think about the alcohol level. That is 100% my weakest part when it comes to tasting wine. I think it's really difficult for me. I've been told after you exhale, after you swallow the wine, if you get a hot burning sensation, that is a higher alcohol wine. I don't get that a lot. I think it's because I drink a lot of whiskey. I like bourbon and I like scotch. And those are obviously pretty high in alcohol, so I think I might be a little immune to the high alcohol wines that are actually only 14% alcohol on the high end. So, something to think about. And that's really it in a nutshell. One thing I forgot to mention that I'll talk about now is you always hear people talk about legs when they talk about appearance. And if you swirl your wine, which I should mention this too, swirling isn't necessary, I don't think, for smell or for aromas. What I like to do is I smell, then I swirl, and I smell again. And that kind of opens it up a little bit more. When you swirl though, you'll see, I hope you can see it from there, maybe not though. You'll see legs form around the rims of the glass, and they'll start to drip down. Those legs can tell you something about the wine. And you're not necessarily looking for the number of legs, but the length of the legs. If there's a lot of legs, it's generally an indicator that the wine is more full-bodied. That sometimes it's higher in alcohol, because the more body and alcohol it has, the more those legs will form, because that's a matter of viscosity. So it's more viscous because it's full-bodied, and so that's why more legs and longer legs will form. So that's really it. I mean, it's not that hard. There's a big difference between tasting and drinking. You don't need to taste wine. If you just want to have yourself a glass, that's by all means, that is 100% fine. But tasting, I think, to me, is kind of the next step. It's how you start to appreciate wine. It's how you start to appreciate beer. If it's intimidating for you, like it was for me, don't freak out. That's fine. There's a lot of things that you can do to help. I highly, 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 highly recommend this book. It's The Wine Bible by Karen McNeil. I got this book when I was a freshman in college, and my freshman roommates will vouch for me. I read this book all the time. It distracted me from schoolwork when I was trying to get lazy, but it is really helpful. It is super thick. It's like a phone book. But there's a ton of information in here, and it's written in a very approachable manner. And you know, there's a whole chapter on just tasting, and then it goes by regions and varietals, and there's a ton of information in here. And I found it really helpful. It was the first wine book I read. I still reference it to this day when I'm looking at wines for the shop. So definitely something I recommend. If you don't have one, pick one up, or you can come in and ask me to borrow mine. I loan it out a lot. So that's it for now. Till next time. Cheers.